Assalamu alaikum. Life is full of tests and challenges that we must face. As Muslims, we believe that trials and difficulties are a part of Allah's divine plan. But what if these struggles are not just random or burdensome? What if they are signs that Allah is preparing us for something much greater? In Islam, every trial and hardship comes with a purpose. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala tests His believers to purify their hearts, strengthen their faith, and prepare them for the breakthroughs that will follow. The Quran reminds us that after difficulty comes ease, but often the road to that ease requires patience, trust, and perseverance. Today, we are going to uncover 10 signs that Allah is testing you before your major breakthrough. These signs may not always be obvious, but with a little reflection, you may start to recognize the wisdom behind every challenge you face. The trials you're going through today could be the very means by which Allah is guiding you towards something much greater. Let me share a story with you. There was once a man who found himself struggling with debt. His finances were in shambles, and it seemed like no matter how hard he worked, he couldn't catch a break. He thought about giving up, wondering if there was any hope. But instead of turning to despair, he turned to Allah, prayed for guidance, and worked even harder, with patience and trust in Allah's plan. After months of difficulty, things began to turn around. He found an opportunity that led to financial success. Looking back, he realized that his struggle was not a punishment, but a test. It was a test that prepared him for greater success, just as Allah promises in the Quran, "Indeed, with hardship comes ease." Quran 94:6. Isn't it amazing how our most difficult times can often be the very thing that prepares us for the blessings ahead? Before starting this video, don't forget to like this video because it gives us a lot of strength to continue sharing beneficial content. And I invite you to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell to stay informed of our next publications on the Islamic faith. Share it with your loved ones and leave a comment to tell me what you think. Thank you and good video. Sign 1. Increased patience is required. One of the most significant signs that Allah is testing you is when the trials you face demand an immense amount of patience. Patience, or sabr, is a quality that is greatly emphasized in Islam, and it is through patience that we grow closer to Allah. Take the example of Prophet Ayub, Job, who is one of the greatest examples of patience in Islamic tradition. He endured years of suffering, losing his wealth, his health, and his family. His body was ravaged by illness, and he was left in isolation. Yet throughout it all, he never lost faith in Allah. In the Quran, Allah says about Prophet Ayub, "Indeed, we found him patient. How excellent a servant. Indeed, he was one repeatedly turning back to Allah." Quran 38:44. Prophet Ayub's story teaches us that sometimes the most difficult trials require not only patience, but also the trust that Allah's plan is far greater than we can comprehend in the moment. When facing long-term hardships, we may start to feel as though we can't take much more. The pressure can seem overwhelming, and we might even question why we are enduring so much pain. But this is where the beauty of faith comes in, when we remember that our trials are a means to purify us, to elevate our status with Allah, and to prepare us for something greater. Patience is not just about enduring silently. It is about maintaining hope, trusting in Allah's wisdom, and never giving up. Have you ever felt like you were tested beyond your patience? Share your story in the comments below. How did you hold on to hope during your toughest times? Real-world story. Let me tell you the story of a woman named Amina. She was diagnosed with a chronic illness that caused her extreme pain and discomfort. Doctors couldn't pinpoint the exact cause, and her condition seemed to worsen with time. For years, Amina went through countless tests, treatments, and hospital visits, all the while facing skepticism and doubt from those around her. Despite the physical suffering, she never gave up. Instead, she increased her reliance on Allah, prayed for healing, and remained patient, believing that this trial had a purpose. Eventually, after years of uncertainty, she found a doctor who finally identified the problem and helped her begin the road to recovery. The breakthrough was not just physical, it was spiritual too. Amina realized that through her years of pain, she had grown closer to Allah, had developed a deeper sense of patience, and had learned to trust Him fully. Her hardship became the catalyst for her spiritual and personal growth, and she is now stronger than ever before. Just like Prophet Ayub, Amina's story is a reminder that patience during the toughest trials can lead to growth, healing, and ultimately, breakthrough. Sign 2. Feeling isolated at some point, many of us experience a deep sense of loneliness or isolation, especially during difficult times. It might feel as though no one truly understands what we're going through, and that the world has turned its back on us. Yet, this feeling of isolation is often a sign that Allah is preparing us for something great. A powerful example of this can be found in the story of Prophet Yusuf, Joseph. Prophet Yusuf's brothers, driven by jealousy and hatred, threw him into a well, leaving him alone in the darkness. Imagine the feelings of abandonment and isolation he must have experienced in that moment, surrounded by nothing but emptiness. But that was just the beginning of his journey. Despite being thrown into a pit and later sold into slavery, Yusuf never lost hope or his faith in Allah. His trials were not meant to break him, but to build him into a leader who would later rise to great prominence in Egypt, saving his family and countless others from famine. The isolation he faced was a crucial part of Allah's plan, shaping him for the breakthrough that was to come. Like Prophet Yusuf, we may feel abandoned or isolated, but these moments of solitude often lead us to growth, clarity, and new beginnings. It is during times of isolation that we often find our true purpose, our connection to Allah, and the strength we never knew we had. Have you ever felt alone during a difficult time, only to realize later that it was part of Allah's plan? Let us know how you coped with your isolation and what lessons you learned. Real-world story. Consider the story of Sarah, who went through a painful breakup after a long relationship. She felt deeply isolated, as if she had lost her sense of identity. She spent months in solitude, grappling with sadness and uncertainty about her future. During this time, she turned to her faith, praying for guidance and clarity. Slowly, she began to rediscover herself, focusing on her personal growth, her career, and her relationship with Allah. After some time, Sarah began to see new opportunities open up. She connected with a group of like-minded individuals who shared her passions and values. Through this newfound community, she not only healed emotionally, but also discovered a career path that aligned with her true purpose. What initially felt like an ending became the start of a new chapter, and Sarah realized that her isolation was part of a larger plan to bring her closer to the right people and the right opportunities. Just like Prophet Yusuf, Sarah's story shows that isolation, though painful, can sometimes be the very thing that leads us to the breakthroughs Allah has prepared for us. The lessons we learn in those quiet moments of reflection and solitude often set the stage for something much greater. Sign 3. Unexpected setbacks. In life, setbacks are often seen as obstacles that hinder our progress. However, in the Islamic perspective, setbacks can be a sign that Allah is testing our resilience and faith. Allah may allow difficulties to arise to see how we respond, to measure our patience, perseverance, and trust in His plan. These setbacks are not meant to break us, but to build us into stronger, more resilient individuals. And sometimes they are the prelude to a major breakthrough. A significant example of this is the Battle of Uhud, one of the most challenging events faced by the early Muslims. After the Muslims' initial success in the battle, they suffered a major setback when they did not follow the Prophet Muhammad's (PBUH) instructions to stay on the hill to protect their positions. As a result, the Muslims were caught off guard, and many were injured or martyred. The defeat was a painful blow, and many began to question their faith. However, despite this setback, Allah reminded them of their purpose and the importance of perseverance. The setback at Uhud became a lesson in humility, resilience, and the importance of remaining steadfast in the face of adversity. Even though the Muslims faced defeat in that battle, their perseverance led to future victories. Allah showed them that setbacks are part of the test, and that true victory comes through steadfastness and trust in Allah's plan. In the same way, we may face setbacks in our personal lives, but these challenges are often the very thing that strengthens us for what is to come. Have you experienced setbacks that made you question your faith or your journey? How did you overcome them? Share your thoughts below, and let's reflect together. Real-world story. Let's take the example of a student named Ali, who struggled for years with his studies. Despite his best efforts, he failed multiple exams and began to lose confidence in his ability. He felt frustrated and defeated, questioning if he would ever succeed. But instead of giving up, Ali made the decision to persist. He sought help from tutors, studied harder, and remained focused, remembering that his efforts would eventually pay off. After several attempts and months of hard work, Ali finally passed his exams with excellent grades. His breakthrough came not because he gave up when things were tough, but because he learned from each failure, adjusted his approach, and kept moving forward. Just like the early Muslims at Uhud, Ali's setback was not the end of his journey. It was a test of his resilience and determination. His success was not only a result of his hard work, but also a reflection of his faith that Allah would guide him through the challenges. Ali's story is a reminder that setbacks, though difficult, can be the stepping stones to success. Just as the Muslims at Uhud learned valuable lessons from their setbacks, we too can grow stronger and more resilient through the trials we face, trusting that Allah is preparing us for something greater. Sign 4. Facing unfairness. Experiencing injustice or unfair treatment is one of the most difficult tests in life. It's easy to become frustrated, angry, or disheartened when we feel wronged by others, especially when we believe we have done nothing to deserve it. However, in Islam, we are reminded that Allah, Subhanahu, uses these very experiences of injustice as tests to see how we respond and whether we remain patient and steadfast in our faith. A powerful example of this is the story of Prophet Musa, Moses, who faced immense injustice at the hands of Pharaoh. Pharaoh was a tyrant who not only oppressed the children of Israel, but also arrogantly denied Allah's sovereignty. Prophet Musa was raised in the house of Pharaoh, yet later he was rejected and persecuted when he confronted Pharaoh about his cruelty. Despite the unfair treatment, Prophet Musa never wavered in his trust in Allah. His story reminds us that even when faced with severe oppression, Allah is always in control and has a greater plan. In the end, Allah's justice prevailed. Pharaoh's tyranny was eventually overthrown, and Prophet Musa was granted victory. The injustice Musa faced was part of a larger test that led to one of the greatest triumphs in Islamic history. It was through facing unfairness that Musa's faith was solidified, and he played a crucial role in the liberation of his people. Similarly, when we face injustice, it is important to remember that Allah, Estahabat, is aware of all that happens to us, and He will eventually bring justice in His own time and way. While the path to that justice may be difficult, it is part of the test that leads to a breakthrough. Have you ever faced unfair treatment that made you question your life? How did you stay patient and trust Allah's plan for you? Share your story with us. Real-world story. Consider the story of Ahmed, who worked at a company for years and had always been a dedicated employee. One day, a colleague wrongfully accused him of making a mistake at work, and despite his innocence, Ahmed was blamed and unfairly reprimanded. He felt devastated, not only because of the false accusation, but also because he had always given his best. At first, he thought about quitting, but then he turned to Allah, praying for patience and guidance. Over time, the truth about the mistake became clear, and it was revealed that Ahmed was not at fault. His dedication and honesty were eventually recognized, and he was promoted to a higher position in the company. His reputation was restored, and he learned an important lesson in patience and trust in Allah's plan. Just as Prophet Musa faced immense injustice but ultimately prevailed, Ahmed's story reminds us that Allah has a way of bringing truth to light and elevating those who remain steadfast and patient in the face of adversity. Ahmed's experience shows that even in the face of unfairness, trusting in Allah's timing and maintaining our integrity can lead to the breakthrough we need. Allah's justice is always at work, and what seems like a setback may very well be a stepping stone to something greater. Sign 5. Increased intensity of struggles. Sometimes, just when we think we can't handle any more hardship, the intensity of our struggles seems to increase even further. It's as though the challenges become more difficult and relentless, testing our endurance and faith to the limit. However, in Islam, we are taught that these intensified trials are often a sign that a major breakthrough is approaching. Allah, Estopald, might increase the pressure just before a great reward to see how we respond and to strengthen us for the blessing that will follow. One of the most profound examples of this can be found in the life of Prophet Abraham. Prophet Ibrahim faced one of the greatest trials when Allah commanded him to sacrifice his beloved son, Ishmael. This was a test of loyalty, faith, and obedience. Imagine the immense emotional pain and difficulty Ibrahim must have felt as a father being asked to sacrifice his son. The trial was excruciating, but Ibrahim's submission to Allah's will was unwavering. He was prepared to follow Allah's command, trusting that Allah's plan was the best, even when the burden seemed unbearable. At the moment of sacrifice, Allah intervened, providing a ram to be sacrificed in Ismail's place. Ibrahim's test was not only a demonstration of his faith, but also a means for him to achieve an even greater reward, his position as one of the greatest prophets and a symbol of unwavering obedience to Allah. This test, while intense, led to a breakthrough not only for Ibrahim, but for all of humanity, as it cemented his status as a model of piety and devotion. When the pressure increases and the struggles intensify, it's important to remember that this is often a sign that Allah is preparing us for something greater, just as He did for Prophet Ibrahim. When you feel like the pressure is mounting, remember that Allah is preparing you for something great. Have you experienced a similar feeling? Tell us in the comments how you found strength in the hardest times. Real-world story. Consider the story of Layla, a woman working in a highly competitive industry. For years, she faced challenges at work, unrealistic deadlines, constant pressure from her superiors, and an overwhelming workload. Despite putting in long hours and doing her best, it felt like the more effort she put in, the harder the struggles became. Just when she felt like she was at her breaking point, the company announced a major reorganization, and Layla was faced with an even tougher situation, being asked to lead a large, high-stakes project with little preparation. At first, Layla considered quitting, feeling the weight of the pressure crushing her. But instead, she took a step back, trusted in her abilities, and turned to Allah for guidance and strength. She gave it her all, pouring her heart and soul into the project. In the end, not only did she complete the project successfully, but she also earned a promotion, recognition from her colleagues, and a sense of accomplishment she hadn't anticipated. The intensity of the challenges she faced became the catalyst for her breakthrough, just as the trials faced by Prophet Ibrahim led to a monumental reward. Layla's story illustrates that when the trials seem unbearable, it is often a sign that Allah is preparing us for something much greater, much like the immense trials faced by Prophet Ibrahim. Allah's tests are a means to purify us, strengthen us, and ultimately bring us closer to the breakthroughs that will transform our lives. Sign 6. Increased connection to Allah. One of the most profound signs that Allah is testing you before your breakthrough is an increased connection to Him. During times of hardship, many of us find ourselves seeking Allah more earnestly, turning to Him for guidance, strength, and comfort. Our hearts become more attuned to prayer, the Qur'an, and dhikr, and we begin to feel the spiritual depth that we may not have experienced before. This deepening of faith during trials is not a coincidence. It is part of Allah's plan to draw us closer to Him. The life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, offers a powerful example of this. During moments of hardship, such as the loss of his beloved wife, Khadijah, and his uncle Abu Talib, Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, turned to Allah for solace and strength. His devotion during these times was unwavering, and he sought refuge in prayer, drawing closer to Allah through his remembrance. In fact, it was during these painful trials that the Prophet, PBUH, received some of the most significant revelations of the Quran, reinforcing his connection to Allah and providing him with the strength to carry on his mission. In times of difficulty, we may not always understand why things are happening, but when we turn to Allah in prayer and reflection, we open ourselves up to the wisdom and guidance He has for us. The trials become a means of strengthening our relationship with Allah, and this closeness often precedes the breakthrough that will follow. Have your prayers become stronger during a trial? Have you noticed a deeper connection to Allah during tough times? Share your spiritual journey with us in the comments below. Real-world story. Let me share the story of Fatima, a woman who went through an incredibly difficult period after the sudden loss of her mother. The grief she felt was overwhelming, and she struggled to find peace in the days following the loss. Initially, Fatima turned inward, overwhelmed by sadness. But over time, she found herself seeking solace in prayer, reciting Quran verses, and engaging in dhikr. Slowly, as she made time for Allah in her life, she began to feel a sense of peace and comfort she had never experienced before. Her prayers became her refuge, and she found that through her connection to Allah, her burden was lightened. As Fatima's connection to Allah deepened, she began to notice a shift in her life. Opportunities arose for her to help others in similar situations, and she started a support group for people grieving the loss of loved ones. Through this, she not only found healing for herself, but was also able to help others. She realized that her trial had not only drawn her closer to Allah, but had also opened doors to a new purpose in her life. Her breakthrough came in the form of newfound strength, community, and a sense of purpose. Fatima's story is a reminder that when we face hardship, our increased connection to Allah can be the key to finding peace, clarity, and purpose. It is through turning to Him in times of trial that we often find the strength to move forward and experience breakthroughs we never expected. Sign 7. The test appears to have no end. One of the most challenging aspects of trials is the feeling that they will never end. When we are in the midst of hardship, it often seems as though there is no end in sight. The days turn into weeks, the weeks into months, and sometimes Even years of struggle feel like they are stretching on indefinitely. This endless nature of trials is, in itself, part of the test. It's an opportunity to prove our patience, our perseverance, and our faith in Allah's plan. A striking example of this can be found in the story of Prophet Noah. Allah commanded Prophet Nuh to build an enormous ark, a task that took him many years to complete. During this time, he faced intense ridicule and rejection from his people. They mocked him, questioning why he was building a massive ship in the middle of dry land. Despite their jeers and disbelief, Prophet Nuh continued his mission without complaint, trusting in Allah's command and maintaining patience even when it seemed as though the trial would never end. Nuh's patience was tested not just by the ridicule, but by the years of hard work and waiting. He didn't see the end of the trial until Allah's mercy came in the form of the great flood. His breakthrough was the salvation of the believers, and the completion of the ark was the culmination of his unwavering trust in Allah, despite the apparent endlessness of his trial. In the same way, our trials may seem like they will never end, but we are being tested in how we respond. If we remain patient and trust that Allah's plan is greater than our understanding, we will ultimately be rewarded, just as Prophet Nuh was. Have you ever felt like the end of a trial was nowhere in sight? How did you keep going? Share your experiences and encourage others in the comments. Real-world story. Take the example of Amina, a woman who had been battling a legal dispute for years. She had done everything she could to resolve the issue, but every step seemed to lead to more delays and setbacks. Year after year, she faced court hearings, paperwork, and constant uncertainty. It felt as though the case would never come to a resolution, and Amina often found herself questioning whether she could endure any longer. But instead of losing hope, Amina turned to Allah for patience and strength. She prayed, sought comfort in the Qur'an, and kept persevering, trusting that the trial would end in due time. Finally, after years of waiting, the case was resolved in her favor. The relief and sense of justice that followed were indescribable. What had seemed like an endless ordeal turned into a breakthrough that not only restored her peace of mind, but also strengthened her faith in the power of patience. Amina's experience demonstrates that even when a trial seems never-ending, it is essential to keep trusting in Allah's timing. Just as Prophet Nuh didn't give up despite years of ridicule, we too can find strength to endure when we trust that Allah will bring an end to our trials at the right time. Patience truly pays off, and breakthroughs often come after periods of seemingly endless hardship. Sign 8. Allah's plan is not immediately clear. One of the most difficult aspects of a trial is that Allah's plan often isn't immediately clear. When we're in the midst of a challenge, it's hard to see the bigger picture. We may wonder why we are being tested or what the purpose of our struggle is, and sometimes it can feel like we're just treading water with no end in sight. However, in Islam, we are reminded that Allah's plan is always greater than our understanding. Even when we can't see the reasons behind our struggles, we can trust that there is wisdom in everything Allah does. A powerful example of this can be found in the story of Prophet Moses. Prophet Musa's journey from Egypt to the parting of the Red Sea is a remarkable story of faith, patience, and trust in Allah's plan, even when it wasn't clear. When Prophet Musa was fleeing Egypt with the children of Israel, they were trapped between Pharaoh's army and the Red Sea. At that moment, it seemed like there was no way out, no clear solution in sight. The people began to panic, and they questioned Musa's leadership. But Prophet Musa remained steadfast and trusted in Allah, despite not knowing how things would unfold. When it seemed like all hope was lost, Allah commanded Musa to strike the sea with his staff, and the waters parted. allowing the children of Israel to escape. In that moment, the plan became clear. Allah had prepared the way for their salvation, and Prophet Musa's unwavering faith led to one of the greatest miracles in Islamic history. This story teaches us that even when Allah's plan isn't clear in the moment, we must have faith that there is wisdom in what He has decreed for us. Have you ever wondered why a trial was happening in your life, only to realize later that it was part of a bigger plan? Let's talk about how Allah's wisdom works in our lives in the comments. Real-world story. Consider the story of Sarah, a young woman who had been struggling with financial hardship for years. After losing her job due to company downsizing, she spent months searching for new opportunities, but nothing seemed to work out. She applied to numerous positions, went to interviews, and even considered changing her career path, but every door seemed to close. At the time, Sarah felt confused and frustrated, wondering why Allah had put her in this situation. However, after a long period of uncertainty, Sarah was finally offered a job in a completely different industry than she had originally planned. The salary was higher than she had anticipated, and the company culture was a perfect fit for her. What she initially saw as a setback was actually a way for Allah to guide her towards something even better. Looking back, Sarah realized that the financial struggles and long job search had led her to the opportunity that was perfectly aligned with her skills and passions. Sarah's experience mirrors the story of Prophet Musa. Just as the path wasn't clear to him at first, it wasn't clear to Sarah either. But in both cases, Allah's plan was unfolding behind the scenes, and in the end, it brought about a breakthrough beyond what they could have imagined. When we go through trials, it's important to remember that sometimes the wisdom behind them is only revealed later. Allah knows what's best for us, and trusting in His plan is key to enduring the uncertainty of the moment. Sign 9. You begin to see blessings in disguises. One of the most profound signs that Allah is testing you before your major breakthrough is the way He shows blessings in the midst of difficulties. Sometimes, it takes perseverance and patience to see that the challenges we face are, in fact, opportunities for growth and rewards that Allah has disguised as trials. These hidden blessings often reveal themselves only after we have endured hardship and shown steadfast faith. A perfect example of this is the story of Prophet Abraham. When Prophet Ibrahim was tested by Allah in numerous ways, he faced immense hardship. One of his greatest trials was when he was commanded to sacrifice his son, Ishmael, a son he had waited for many years to have. This was an incredibly difficult and painful command, but Ibrahim's unwavering faith and trust in Allah led him to be ready to obey, even when the situation seemed unbearable. However, just as he was about to carry out the sacrifice, Allah intervened and provided a ram to be sacrificed in place of Ismail. What seemed like an unbearable test turned into a great blessing. Not only was Ismail spared, but Ibrahim's faith was rewarded, and Allah's mercy and wisdom were revealed in this moment of trial. The sacrifice became a symbol of unwavering obedience to Allah, and it resulted in blessings for Ibrahim and his descendants that would last through the generations. Similarly, in our own lives, the trials we face may initially appear to be insurmountable, but after persevering and trusting in Allah's wisdom, we often discover blessings hidden within those challenges. What we once saw as hardship can, over time, reveal itself to be a pathway to greater opportunities, growth, or rewards. Have you experienced blessings disguised as challenges? Let us know how Allah's plan has revealed hidden blessings in your life. Real-world story. Take the story of Omar, a man who lost his job unexpectedly during a global economic downturn. At first, the situation seemed dire. Omar was uncertain about how he would support his family, and the stress of job searching left him feeling defeated. But after months of searching and facing rejection, Omar decided to take up a new skill, something he had always wanted to learn but never had the time for. Through dedication and hard work, Omar became certified in a field he had previously only dreamed of. Through dedication and hard work, Omar became certified in a field he had previously only dreamed of. Several months later, Omar was offered a position at a company that not only paid more than his previous job, but also provided opportunities for growth and a better work-life balance. Looking back, what initially seemed like a setback was actually a blessing in disguise. The loss of his job forced him to reevaluate his career path and led him to a much better opportunity, one that he might not have pursued otherwise. Omar's experience highlights how Allah often reveals hidden blessings in the challenges we face. Just as Prophet Ibrahim's trial with Ismail led to greater blessings, our own trials can reveal the wisdom of Allah's plan, even when we don't see it immediately. It's through perseverance, trust, and faith that we uncover the blessings Allah has set aside for us. Sign 10. A major breakthrough. After facing the trials, the hardship, and the tests that Allah places in our lives, there comes a moment of breakthrough, a moment when everything falls into place. This is the culmination of patience, perseverance, and unwavering faith. It's the moment when Allah rewards you for enduring the trials, and you see the fruits of your efforts and trust in Him. A powerful example of this is the story of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the early struggles of Islam. The Prophet, peace be upon him, and his followers endured years of persecution, hardship, and rejection. They faced ridicule, abuse, and were even forced to migrate from Mecca to Medina. But through it all, the Prophet's faith in Allah remained unshaken. He continued to spread the message of Islam despite the difficulties, knowing that Allah's plan was greater than any trial they faced. The ultimate breakthrough came after years of struggle. The victory of Mecca, when the Muslims were able to peacefully conquer the city, marked the culmination of all the hardship and tests. It was a moment of immense triumph and a clear sign that Allah's wisdom had been at work throughout the entire journey. The victory of Mecca was not just a military conquest, but a spiritual triumph, proof that Allah's plan, though sometimes unclear during the difficult moments, always leads to success when we trust in Him and remain patient. Similarly, in our own lives, when we face test after test, we may not always see the way forward. But with perseverance and faith, the breakthrough will eventually come. It's the reward for enduring, for trusting, and for never losing hope in Allah's mercy and plan for us. Have you experienced your major breakthrough after facing trials? How did you feel when it finally happened? Share your story with us in the comments below. Real-world story. Take the story of Bilal, a man who had been struggling to get his business off the ground for several years. He faced financial struggles, rejection from investors, and countless setbacks that made him question his decision to pursue his dream. There were moments when it felt like his hard work would never pay off, and he thought about giving up. However, Bilal remained committed. He kept his faith in Allah, continued working hard, and trusted that one day, everything would align. After years of struggle, Bilal was finally presented with an opportunity that he had been waiting for. A major investor showed interest in his business, and within a few months, his startup took off. The breakthrough was immense. His company became profitable, he expanded his team, and his dream was finally realized. Bilal reflected on the journey and realized that his success didn't just come from his own efforts. It was the result of his perseverance, his faith in Allah's plan, and his willingness to keep going despite the difficulties. Just like the victory of Mecca, his breakthrough was the result of patience, faith, and trust in Allah's timing. Bilal's story reminds us that breakthroughs often come after long periods of trial and struggle. Allah rewards those who remain steadfast, and when the breakthrough comes, it's often greater than we could have imagined. Conclusion and call to action. As we conclude, it's important to remember that the tests we face in life are not punishments, but opportunities. Opportunities to grow, to strengthen our faith, and to prepare for something greater. Every hardship, every trial, and every challenge we endure is part of Allah's divine plan to shape us into stronger, more resilient believers. These tests are a way for Allah to purify us, build our character, and prepare us for the blessings that lie ahead. No matter how tough the journey may seem, know that it is through perseverance, patience, and trust in Allah that we are able to achieve the breakthroughs we seek. Just as the great prophets faced trials and emerged victorious, we too can find success, happiness, and fulfillment by continuing to strive in the path of faith and action. So, my dear brothers and sisters, stay patient, trust in Allah's